Welcome to Crush the Chaos. This is the monthly event that I run. Basically, it's for leaders, co-founders, executives, and those who want to be in the know about automation and AI. And essentially, what we're trying to do here is kind of cut through the hype and let people see the real strategies that are going on out there, what real companies are doing. Most of us work with real companies and own real companies, obviously. So it's a good way to get it right from the actual person that's experiencing it, right? And then hopefully give them some ideas to reduce their overwhelm or develop better systems so they can have more freedom in their own business or put that through to another person who can help. My name is Philip Brown. Um, Basically, what I do is I'm a systems and automation strategist. I have run a company called Blue Pit for 15 years now. What that company does is um, work with corporations and helps them manage and automate their project management processes. I'm also writing a book called The Ghost CEO, kind of how to remove yourself from the main spotlight and let your business run on its own. My mission is to help leaders escape the weeds and build businesses that run on autopilots. We have three panelists today with us that are going to shed light on automations, AI, and all the things that they are experts in. We have Holly Jean Jackson. I was going to put Holly Jean Jackson on there again, but I was like, well, I just don't want to repeat that. So um, she is her own business right now, soon to be rebranding. We're on the edge of our seats for that. We have Ian McEwen, the Truth Quarry, and we have Jamie J, Bottleneck Distant Assistance. And what I'll do is I'll let Holly go first and introduce herself.
Great. Thanks, Philip. So I'm a revenue and performance consultant. And in case you're wondering what the heck is that, we help small business owners with sales and marketing consulting work. So some of the things that Philip's going to talk to you about automation, we do some bits and pieces of that, standard operating procedures, templates, marketing, all of those assets so that you're not stuck in the weeds like he talked about. And then we hand it off to beautiful technical partners like Philip and Caitlin for helping you on the technical side. Our mission and vision is to help heal the world by helping change makers do more with less and make an impactful ripple effect in their communities, one customer at a time.
Awesome. Thank you, Holly. Next, we have Ian. Ian, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Ian McEwen. I'm the chief brand consultant at the Truth Quarry. In short, I help business leaders and teams condition perception to performance, so we can ensure that they're respected and chosen from their audience instead of just noticed. Making sure the messages land clean, clear, and you know what you're saying, who you're saying it to, how you say it, and where you're saying it.
Awesome. Thank you, Ian. Next, we have Jamie.
Well, hello there. Thank you so much for having me on here. My name is Jamie J. I am a former paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne Division and proud papa of a daughter that just got out of the Army. So super happy for that. I'm the CEO and founder of Bottleneck Distant Assistance and the creator of a category called Delegation Intelligence. So we teach a lot of people how to delegate properly, and we set up their own delegation departments. And so we're really big on systems and processes. I am an author, wrote the book Quit Repeating Yourself, and it's all about creating systems and putting them in place so you don't have to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. Figuring out what you can delegate, how to delegate it, and then we'll take that and document it for you and in a nice little workflow manual that we give to all of our clients as the asset that they will own and be able to run their companies based on the SOPs. And I've been doing this for 20 years and absolutely love it. And I'm looking forward to talking a little bit more about AI and how we've integrated AI into our systems and what we do for our clients.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. Let's see how I can do this next. So we'll start off with the discussions. I've got a couple questions and kind of a progression of those questions here. So what I want to kind of start off with is um, when is automation kind of the smart play in your view? Like maybe when did you start talking or thinking about automation in your own business? And when do you kind of advise your clients to start thinking about automation? Holly, do you want to go first?
Sure. I was waiting for you to say who you wanted to go first. So for me, I worked in technology before starting my company 8 years ago. So I'm familiar with automations even before AI existed. When I started my company and realized that there were a lot of repeatable things that I was doing, I would talk to my friends who were super smart in the tech space and ask them, what are some efficiencies we could gain from this? What are some webhooks or connections we can have to, have our different technologies speak to each other to save time and not feel like I need to have like this laundry list of to-do items, but instead have the technology create that for me. So what we've done is, I think it was 2 years ago, we worked with somebody else because I am a technologist, but I don't really do that anymore. So we hired somebody internally to help us with our tech stack. And we were at a juncture where we were considering hiring somebody else. And this individual said, well, actually, I'm not sure you really quite need that person yet. Let's set up some of these automations based on the SOPs you already have, those standard operating procedures. And so we did that. We were able to automate things like templates that didn't require human intervention. We were able to automate tasks that were assigned to somebody where human interaction was required, but then we weren't dropping the ball on tasks because we had all of those processes kicked off within our project management system. And then also, what was really beautiful about all of those pieces is that adds to our knowledge base as a company, so that in the future, if we were to sell the company, there's tangible steps and actions that are being tracked. One thing I would say that's a gotcha on this is a year later, we did get to the point where we needed to hire somebody else. And I'm noticing when you set up automation, one thing you always want to have is have a report that tells you when your automations break. That way, like, you're not like, oh my goodness, why is this not working? And you're not getting a report because an automation has stopped working. That's one of the most frustrating pain points I learned the hard way.
Yeah, I feel your pain on that. We just recently started. It's a daily morning check on our automations to make sure all of them are running properly. Because Google likes to time you out after a certain amount of days. So you have to go back and re-authenticate stuff.
Well, and you guys remember that big Amazon or whatever outage that we had, and it broke
Yeah.
so many things. That made a lot of things break that we needed to kind of go in and set reports for when chaos like that happens.
Yeah, there was what Amazon in the past couple months, and then Cloudflare was out
Yep.
twice in the past couple months. So I know that really broke a bunch of things. How about you, Ian?
Typically I work with a lot of smaller businesses, skeleton crews that really need to lean into efficiency and understand where they're going to put their limited time and efforts to make the most of it. I do feel that the automation, it's a great opportunity for improving predictable outcomes and being able to not set it and forget it, but to reinforce and support your team. So I think if you've got limited time or you've got things that are eating up your limited time, like Holly said, that are just repeatable kinds of tasks, it's a great opportunity to do that. But it is a double-edged sword. I do have this thing in the back of my mind that I can't always just trust it to just set it and forget it because it's gonna, come back and bite me. But I do think that if you need to make the most of the little time that you have and you have things that you can entrust to be repeatable, then, lean into it as much as you can.
Awesome. Yeah, I try to think of automations as employees. You can let them go on their own and do their own thing, but you still have to go check every now and again to make sure that they're still going down the right path and doing the right thing. With automations, you got to make sure that they're just still going, right? So, and sometimes software updates, system updates, outages, things like that affect it too. So it's really, I don't think it'll get to a point where it's ever a set it and forget it, until we get to, where AI can actually think. And I don't think that's anywhere near our time, at least. So,
Well, Philip, now that you're telling me automations are like employees, no wonder. No wonder I have so much on my plate. That's a lot to manage. All those automations are people, you know?
yeah, exactly. I mean, at least thankfully you don't have to pay them salaries, but it is a little bit more management than most people think when they think automations.
I guess you're paying in patience, right?
Yeah,
And pain, patience and pain and
exactly.
subscriptions. And then
Yeah,
once you have them built, then you're trapped because then the places you have them set, you have to pay those technologies and then they just jack up their prices, right? So
exactly. And you get surprised and you're like, what is this? Oh, sometimes you forget you had it. That's when that can be a good thing or a bad thing. So, how about you, Jamie?
I think it's kind of like planting a tree. So if you're looking at when is the automation the smart play, when is a good time to plant a tree 20 years ago? When's the second best time today? I'm really big on automation. I think efficiency and productivity tend to lean on automation. And it's not that I want to dismiss the human aspect or the human element of it. I'm all big time human. Like, hey, go to live events and do all that kind of stuff. But sometimes we have to be careful in overpromising and underdelivering or missed opportunities because of a lack of follow-up. Or simply because we are humans, we forget that one email that we should have sent to somebody, and here we are at 9 o'clock at night sending out an email. Automation's really good in that aspect, and so we're big believers of it here. So I feel that every single organization should explore automation 100%, and like you said, have those employees working 24/7 for you. And you are right. Not only with automation, setting it and forgetting it, there's often updates in technology and stuff like that. So we go through our automation all the time, and when we find some technology that will support the automation or maybe lower costs on our end, or when we're going to convert from you know using Zapier so much to using an internal automation in
Right.
our CRM, stuff like that comes up. And that's another thing that we think about constantly because, yeah, when it breaks, it really stinks. And thankfully, though, we've documented our processes really strong. So that's one thing I would recommend is making sure you document the process, like we've all said.
Yeah, and you kind of deal in human automation too, right? We talk about automation a lot and we think technology, but really, what you deal in, with virtual assistants, distant assistants is also a kind of automation for the business owners so that they can do other things while somebody else is actually handling the, day-to-day activities that don't require their attention as much.
Oh, 100%. I mean, so yeah, we've set up processes for our assistants to set up automations for our clients, and everything we have here is pretty much automated. Everything from payroll to reminders to marketing events to everything, and having a team that understands the importance of automation and even more than automation is integration. Like how do you integrate these various touch points that's going to make this automation sequence work?
Yeah, and I'm glad you said integrations because that's kind of how I started into this. One of the big things at the corporate level is they have tons of different software that they're working on in different departments, and then one day they figure out that they need all those softwares to talk to each other, and then they're like, well, how do I integrate these? So then they want to integrate them into one platform. And of course, when they integrate them, they don't want everybody having to do double work. So they try to automate it. Um, so it's just kind of a progression. Of course, with that, as all of you know, you have to have systems and processes in place in order to do any kind of automation or integration, because otherwise it's just chaos. So how about how are you all using or leveraging artificial intelligence and right now ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, all that is super in the forefront of the media, and more people are using it day to day. Companies are trying to implement it, whether they're implementing it ethically or not, or the right way or the wrong way. I think the decision is still out on that. But how are you guys seeing that used within your sphere of knowledge? Do you want to go, Holly? We'll just keep going in a
Sure.
circle.
Why not? Let's not. Let's keep the circle, the cycle going, the circle of life. So I'd say almost all of our core technologies have an AI component, and it's just included, I think, to keep them competitive. And then some of them have, they're trying to like sell you on upscaling your subscription level. And quite frankly, a lot of those that are trying to sell you, they're not better than the paid chat GPT version that the team uses. So I'm kind of like, why would I do that? So we're using it on, examples would be like Grammarly across all of our platforms for proper spelling. We work with a lot of writers, authors, publishers, so we want to make sure we have that etiquette. We also, Pipedrive is our core CRM. So Pipedrive has quite a few AI components where replying to emails, we have templates, but also there are some times where we might leverage the AI response. Their AI response isn't quite as good as ChatGPT. So, but again, like it's just integrated within their system. So sometimes we'll see what they come up with, and then the team will come up with a response through a different platform. Um, we use ChatGPT quite a bit because just kind of leveraging ideas or brainstorming where we're careful from an ethical perspective and also just a legal perspective of protecting intellectual property. So anything related to future books that I am writing or working with authors on, we don't put in ChatGPT or any AI platform. There are copyright issues and legal issues that are probably going to be lawsuits in the future. So that's a place ethically where you want to be careful, and just legally you want to be careful. Additionally, you want to be careful with, we were talking earlier about getting trademark attorneys and whatnot. So if you're rebranding and you're leveraging AI for design and whatnot, you also want to be careful that your ideas, if you're wanting to protect that legally or whatever, there are situations where when you sign up for the platform, you don't see the fine print of this is now public knowledge. It's part of the platform. So that's been interesting. And then I've also noticed, just kind of as an ethical discussion, both with publishers and then people in the medical industry, there's a lot of concerns for medical industry. It's HIPAA compliance and making sure that they have secured AI platforms so that they can leverage it without violating HIPAA compliance and privacy. And then on the publisher side, it's making sure that people aren't leveraging AI for any of their written word. So I think there's going to be a lot of not just ethical conundrums with AI, but legal conundrums that are going to come down the pipeline. And especially you've got like Canva and Magic Studio for AI for designing things. So it's a whole can of worms, the black hole here, Philip.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, and I agree with you on the subscriptions. I've started going through all my subscriptions once a month because I'm the type of person that'll be like, oh, I just want to sign up for this and see if it's any better. I don't want to be the one that forgets and lets it roll for months and months of paying $20 or $30 or $40 because they add up. One thing that I will definitely not recommend, I don't know if anybody's done it here, but going to the upgraded $200 a month plan on any large language model is probably not going to get you anywhere faster because the large language models are still evolving and they're all competing with each other. So the second that ChatGPT comes out with a new version, a week later, Google will come out with a new version and Claude will come out with a new version, which is Anthropic. So while they're competing, I don't see, I mean, at least maybe your point of view is different, but I don't see paying a lot for any of the platforms until one kind of emerges as the main platform to utilize. And I view it in the same fashion. Maybe I'm dating myself, but as like Apple and Microsoft, like which one do I use in my business, right? If you would have went with Apple first, then you would have felt like the minority because most businesses use a Microsoft platform now. So you want to be careful in um, which one you're going to put a lot of your budget into, because a lot of them have different strengths and weaknesses. Um, so as for the ones that try to bring them all together, it's a whole nother story. I don't think that's to a point where we need to work with anything like a galaxy or anything like that. At least not
Yeah.
till the tokens get a little bit more hashed out, because you just end up paying more money for more tokens.
Well, and then you also have all these people that are trying to create agents from the larger AI platforms. And
Yep.
every single company that's come to me with, oh, I've got this beautiful agent, and I analyze it and I'm like, this is not any better than just using one of the main competitors. And their whole like selling point or value proposition is that it's specifically for your customer base or whatever. So just be careful, like Philip was saying, with language models where you invest your money, and really look at, is it worth the investment? Because a lot of these platforms are pretty crappy.
Yeah, and a lot of the ones that are wrappers for ChatGPT or Claude, they will they'll all go away and something will replace them as things progress. And things are progressing much faster than anybody ever anticipated right now. So, what about you, Ian? How do you see AI being leveraged?
So, from a brand development perspective, I see it in a lot of different, areas. So whether it's design, copywriting, name development, strategic development, you know, personally, I use it just as a sounding board to increase the efficiency of hashing out ideas and just getting things out of my head, either down on paper and into there, so I can just really just sort through it a lot faster. The AI capabilities that we're seeing in Adobe, I mean, is like 10x my output just in terms coming from an illustrative background, where you can really just move a lot faster, which is a great advantage in terms of making the betterment of time. But it's a double-edged sword, right? So it's it's seen as a way where it kind of mitigates perceived value in certain types of disciplines or expertise. And I think that, there's a lot of noise right now. And I think that's one of the ethical issues I'm seeing is, it's just this onslaught of just content just generated, pumped out. And, you have this thing of trying to be top of mind, or, the 95/5 rule of just being out there as much as you can so that when people are ready to invest or purchase, you're there. But it's, at what's the cost? Right? So everybody's drowning in content, everybody's drowning in clickbait and articles, and how factual those articles are a whole nother story. Once you get into the hallucinations and the inaccurate info that can be generated. If you're not already an expert in what you do, you may not catch those slip ups. So that's one of the things I'm seeing is where, if it's people who are bootstrapped and they're having a tough time and they want to lean into the AI to help them cut costs on investing X amount of dollars in certain services, for the time being, if that's what's going to help them and they're comfortable with the risks associated, great. And eventually you can refine and revise. But it shouldn't diminish the value of that market per se. So I think that, if people don't understand the value of what those services or deliverables are, it can be easily misunderstood that you can do the same thing with AI. Um, whether it's image generation or even just, one of the things I love in Adobe is just expanding a canvas. Sometimes you get started and you need a little bit more, and old school having to go in and just redraw more of the background. You're talking minutes, hours. Now it can be done in seconds, which is great to see. But I do one of the ethical things I'm concerned with is people pirating work, content, thought leadership, which happens anyway, but it kind of fuels this machine of feeling this need to just be out there and saying something, whether it's valuable or not, it's a different story. So I'm kind of waiting in the wings and seeing how this is going to play out. And what did they say? Like the wisest one in the room is always the last one to speak, kind of thing.
Right.
So not that I'm the wisest one in the room by any means, but being aware of what's going on, seeing how it plays out, letting other people hit that learning curve so you can kind of take um those notes and kind of move forward. That's where I'm seeing it a lot. But it comes with its fair share of risk. So as long as you really understand what you're putting on the table and what you're leaving open for interpretations or lack of legal, protection, you know, you got what you got.
Yeah, I think you touched on a really important topic when it comes to using AI in your business, is that you don't want it to actually replace anybody. You want it to be a tool to use alongside of you. Um, Taking the example of vibe coding, that's a big trend right now with using a lot of these large language models to vibe code a software and then sell that software. The part that a lot of people who are trying to bootstrap miss is they may be an expert in the topic that the software that they vibe coded is doing, but they're not an expert in programming. So they can only get it 95% of the way. And then they realize that there's another 5% that has to secure it and make sure that nobody can hack it and make sure that all the bugs are out of it. Because once you finish it, you're going to find that people start using it and they're very efficient at breaking it really quick if you don't have a lot of the quality um, set behind it and you don't have a professional look at it and make sure that you didn't miss something, or that the large language model didn't miss something when it was programming it,
Yeah.
because there's it's not exactly what I would call a hallucination, but a lot of times it can create code in a way that's easily broken when users start using it in mass.
Yep.
So,
The things you take for granted too, as any practitioner or whatever discipline, is one of those things where, you know, like we all know from running a business or leading a business, where you need to document those processes, hand them off to a team, and let people take those and run. And you see those gaps that are missed where it's stuff you may not even think about anymore. It's just automatic.
right.
But it does need to be discussed. There were a couple cool things I saw a couple years ago. There was a company that came out that was creating basically poison pixels for artists who were working on their digital artwork. If they were going to put it out online to try to mitigate any of this issues of AI tapping into their content. And yeah, I thought it was a pretty cool approach where it basically would just sabotage the image if anybody tried to pick it up and use it. Another thing I saw was a company in Japan, I believe it was an illustration company, started having people physically test their drawing capability in-house during the application process to ensure that their portfolio could be something that's substantiated from actual technical skills.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely changing the way interviews are being done for different positions to make
Yeah.
sure that people aren't just using AI to answer the questions. Jamie, how about you? How have you seen AI being leveraged with like distance or assistance, etc.?
Yeah, I almost grabbed my cowboy hat to put that on there because it's the wild, wild west right now. And I talked with a group of people that were putting together a worldwide ethics committee on AI. So it's pretty soon. I don't know what the rules are going to be, but pretty soon there's going to be, I think, different limitations. So I say number one, first and foremost, take advantage of it now, get familiar with it, and check it out. But understand that whatever comes out of the LLMs, and I tell this to my team all the time. or share it with them, include this in our AI training, is whatever is generated is an idea. Never use that idea, never copy paste that idea and put it out there. You always got to go through it, and that's it's you can see what they call the M dashes, those long dashes.
Yeah.
You see those all over the place, and so obviously, and maybe they've gone through iterations through prompt chaining or whatever it is, and uh, and they feel that they've gotten a really good answer, but you still want to go through that and kind of make it your own because a lot of times it will get you. Even though I know the next thing we're going to be talking about processes we're using, but even through automated output where you leverage the AI, um, that's even a little challenging because even in the reports that we're sending out to people right now, I can still see a couple challenge areas, and that's why we hired an AI expert to kind of go through all that stuff for us and help us out because a lot of people don't have, like you said, a lot of people don't have that inept knowledge of doing that. And I think the other thing too we need to be careful of is losing ourselves in AI. I think we're going to be seeing AI burnout because a lot of us started companies that are not AI companies. We're going to be leveraging it, but you get excitement, around that little bell curve, and everybody wants to kind of do it, and they're seeing how it can make things a lot easier. But um, I think what happens is a lot of us get a little caught up, or a little wrapped up in it, and some of those new things. I get this all the time. Like, what are you going to do? AI's taken over all the administrative tasks that you have human beings for, and I say,
Mhm.
well, all of our human beings are highly tech-enabled human beings, so they're going to implement against your ideas and strategies. And I think you're right. You need to have that human touch right now. Agentic AI is not here, as you said earlier.
Yeah.
So we just need to be careful of that and treat the output as ideas and then take it from there.
Yeah, and I think you touched on one thing there as well about people kind of getting burnout for AI. And most of us track the marketing sphere or the marketing category, right? And we know that on social media, it's getting flooded right now with all kinds of AI content, whether that's, short videos, reels, different texts, carousels, etc., on all the platforms. And what I've started to notice is that a lot of groups, instead of just depending upon a platform to communicate, they're starting to meet up in real life so that actually they can tell who's real and who's not, right? Because there's a lot of influencers out there that are not real. And it's becoming very hard to tell the difference. If you're not tech enabled, if you will, then you probably can't tell the difference on some of them. Because some people don't pay that much attention to whether the lips are syncing properly or et cetera. And some people get very creative on how they cut the videos so that you don't really see a lot of that if it's not like glaring you in the face. So that's one of the things that's, a little bit worrisome, at least for me, is that we're going to just get flooded in our social media channels with nothing but artificial stuff. And people are going to lose confidence in anything that they see on social media. Not that we think that all of it's real now anyway, but it's going to get even more convoluted. Any additional comments on that? I know we,
I was going to ask, I see it a similar circumstance where we're going to have this explosion of AI, the usage, the adaptation, but eventually it's got to balance out, right? So, like,
yeah,
what does that recoil look like? If it's going back into in-person communities, but even with, social media and things like that being just this arena of just flooded content, like what do you think is next to combat that, as the balance factor instead of just having a um a social media platform that's just littered with AI content, like what's the alternative that could be similar to social media? Is it in-person conferences or, going back to that, or are we going to see a new uncharted territory?
I think both. I think we're going to see people going back to, what the kids call IRL, right, in real life. Um, and that's going to be, I think people are realizing that they need that connection. Um, we've kind of gotten past the we're okay to stay in our homes all the time. Um, and more people are getting out. But with regards to the other side of that, there's innovations coming along much faster than many expected that nobody's even talking about in the media yet. So if I had to future cast what's going to happen over the next 12 to 24 months, we're going to see a lot more talk about quantum computing, and it's going to start mixing into what it can do within artificial intelligence. And the second somebody discovers a viable interface for quantum computers, they will quickly take over AI, because there's a whole new set of problems that come with quantum computing, not just, you know, the speeding up of the AI curve on how that advances. It will advance AI, but you'll see most companies scrambling because quantum computing is also going to break any encryption that we have out there. So they've already they already have I think there's two companies out there right now that have created um, encryption technologies that quantum computing they don't think quantum computing can crack. So, but a
NVIDIA's.
lot of you see a lot of banks and government entities actually creating separate departments. One is going down the AI path and one is going down the quantum path because they're afraid of both. Um,
Yeah.
and then, I
I
mean, when
have
you put them together, we don't know. We probably can't even imagine what's going to happen when we put those two together, right? Because true prediction becomes available when quantum computing comes out.
I have a very different prediction for the future. So I'm
Yep,
not sure how you guys will feel about this.
go for it.
I don't remember where I got this data point from. It was somebody I trusted as a valid, actual, credible source, but they were speaking to the fact that AI projects, which that's where everybody's investing their money right now. It's like ridiculous, are failing at a rapidly, exponentially higher rate than technology projects across the board. Like it's 15 to 20% higher than the failure rate for normal technical projects. So my prediction is we're going to see an AI bust that's going to have a pretty really disastrous economic impact potentially. And even if we do have a winner or two, it's going to have this pretty negative ripple effect in the economy. I also think we're going to see a lot of ethical things that cost a lot of money. Um, and I think tied to that also, what I am hearing from clients, kind of going to your next question, the challenge that we're facing with for our clients as well as for ourselves is people keep saying, well, they have like this answer of I'm going to wait or I'm going to try to see if I can do this with AI. And that is the most ridiculous answer you could ever have because here's the deal, folks. AI has been around for decades. It's been around for decades. You
Yeah,
have access to it in a new way. You don't know the ethical conundrums. You don't know the legal conundrums of that. And if you don't have somebody that's actually supporting you to make sure that you're doing this correctly, you're not going to remain competitive. And so I'm seeing left and right companies going out of business because of this or losing employees or fear of how it's going to replace things. And even sales calls would be like, oh, well, why would I do that? And it's crazy to me. It's like, cool, you try that with your little AI chat GPT, and we'll see if you're
yeah,
still in business in 6 to 12 months from now. I'm making a list, y'all, of all the people who've said this, and I'm going to check in with them in 6 to 12 months to see who's still around because AI is not the solution to everything. So I feel like we're going to have not just an economic bust, but a social bust from all of this stuff with AI. Like rapid development in technology needs to have ethical bounds for us to properly use it. And people aren't thinking about the ramifications. And there are tons of people that are jobless right now from this as well. So, anyways, not to be a bummer, but that's my perspective.
No, I mean, there's no
Well,
free lunch, right? I
yeah.
mean, everything's got a cost, whether or not it's now or later. It's going to come
Yep.
back and get you.
Yeah, and I agree with that point of view as well on especially the bubble piece because we don't right now we don't understand what we're creating. A lot of people don't understand what they're creating and they don't understand how to use it properly. It's just a big buzzword. Um, I don't know that it's going to be as crazy of a bubble popping as like the dot coms, but hopefully we're a little bit more cautious now than we were then.
Are
But
we? Are we really? I don't
but
know, you
maybe
guys.
not.
I don't know. Like,
I hope it's
I
not as big as it was because that's going to be a big hit on a lot of people. But you know it if you go and look on like Y Combinator, right, and you look at the companies that started last year, that they funded last year, or the year before last, or even during the pandemic, you'll see how many of those have actually survived and how many of those were AI that didn't survive. Um, you have to be solving a true problem
yeah.
and not just wrapping your idea inside of one of the large language models that's going to develop right past your software that you're creating, right?
Yeah, the reason I say that I'm not sure we're better than that is because I've had so many ethical discussions around AI because it's so hot right now. And we're talking about people speaking to AI to replace a therapist. Like they're
Yeah, I've heard about that.
suicidal and people are killing themselves because their therapist is an AI. I'm sorry, I'm like very passionate about the nonsense of the world right now. And there's just too many case studies and scenarios that I'm seeing around misuse of AI and forgetting about the important element of human connection. And so I feel like we're living in the freaking matrix right now. And Jamie came off of mute. Come on, let's hear it.
Uh,
Go.
yeah, yeah. So this kind of gets me because I'm starting to see like news outlets quoting, well, AI said this, and they're starting now to argue based on what the results are of a question that they popped into, Chat GPT, and it's so freaking frustrating. I'm right there with you. It's kind of if you look back, I think you're right. I think we're bound to repeat ourselves because we forget history. And if you look back, way back, you look at what Ford did when all those workers were laid off because he came up with a way to in the factories to just get those cars, rolling and rocking. Well, they lost a lot of jobs there. And then if you fast forward to the 70s when the computers came out, or look at manufacturing, all those people, you look at high school dropouts, high school graduates, there's like 30% job loss when that happened. But then you look at the college graduates, there was like a 17% increase because as they were going through school, they were learning about the new technology, so they had more job placement. I think that's kind of what we're going through right now. And we just got to look at history and be able to adjust and pivot and do it responsibly. But it's not really that hard. I mean, it's look at history, see what it's taught us, and kind of move forward from there. Don't rely on this tech. Like,
Yeah, and I
it
think
kills me.
with regards to the job replacement, if AI gets to a point where it can actually replace a full job position, which I don't really think it's there right now, I believe we're going to see a split. Right now, there's certain things that AI will never be able to do, right? And I think we're a long ways away before a robot can clean your house efficiently. So we're still gonna have the housekeeper jobs. We're still gonna have the electrician, the plumber, we're still gonna be able to have somebody come and mow our lawns and do the gardening or whatever. So I think those, what the blue collar jobs will still be around, those labor intensive jobs. because we still haven't created a labor-intensive robot that can actually think. There's some out there that can do certain tasks. Like, yeah, I can go get a remote controlled thing and mow my lawn, but I still have to control it, right? Um, so there's some things that I believe there's going to be a split. There's going to be the heavy labor intensive and then the highly intellectual. And people are just going to have to decide which one they want to go after. Do they want to do the you know, the HVAC or the lawn maintenance or the plumbing or the construction jobs, or do they want to go to college for the 4 to 6 to 10 years and be a highly specialized, individual who actually manages the AI or whatever it becomes and keeps it running because it's just a machine. And a machine still has to be maintained, just like your car has to be maintained. You know, we have Teslas that can think, but Teslas aren't without their flaws either, right?
But Philip, you're assuming that the general population has an IQ that they can actually understand and process that, and that these executives are making the decisions based on that and not letting go of employees. And guess what? They are not. They're doing the
Uh,
exact opposite. Sorry. And I know Ian
yeah,
came off of mute, but I'm a little passionate about this.
I'm hoping it self-regulates. Right now, we're in a time where I, you know, intelligent people are not using their intelligence
Yeah.
effectively to know what the future is going to be. So we're having like a bunch of layoffs. And then we've already seen some companies start hiring back because they laid off thinking they were going to be able to do some things and they couldn't. So then now they're hiring back people.
Yep.
Yep.
Ian, let's hear your impassioned response. You came off of mute a while ago. Share.
No, it's you know, without going too deep, but you look at like human evolution, right? And you look at where we came from, and every time there's just this massive jump, be it agriculture, fire, like that kind of stuff, where there's going to be a learning curve. You know what I mean? Like how many things just got torched when you're trying to understand how to harness the power of fire? How many just, you know, catastrophes happen. But like with the AI stuff, I think it's a similar thing where it's too much for us to understand the gravity of it at the moment. We're just too limited, which is fine. That's part of what we do as a species is constantly push those bounds and find new ways to, in short, seek comfort, right? So like shelter keeps you out of the weather and the elements. Agriculture gives you predictable outcomes for food and, animal husbandry, and then you get fire, so you can start cooking things, and you go up these things. We get manufacturing, automation of processes and manual labor, tools to help us stop having to hit things with our fists and protect ourselves, and close distances. So I think that this AI thing is going to be very similar to that, where it's going to have this huge jump. There's going to be the recoil, but there's going to be certain things that are just going to happen because that's human nature. We're going to burn ourselves on it. We're going to learn, we're going to iterate, we're going to move forward. And I think that going back to, Holly's point of how businesses are using it, I mean, look, keeping your bottom line down, keeping your profit margin up, I mean, that's the whole point in a nutshell, right? So like if there's a tool that comes out that's going to mean like there's a good chance I could cut my, you know, my spending on staff or whatever down. I can crank up my efficiency, my consistency, which from a brand perspective, the nice thing about automation is it can protect that brand consistency, which can just keep it moving forward. But, like we said before, there's no free lunch. So we're going to see how that pans out, in the coming years. But, I'm along for the ride, curious to see what happens. I think some great things are going to come from it, especially not necessarily from like a general population use of LLMs for medical or therapy or anything like that, but how that can impact those physical disciplines, the doctors, all that kind of things like surgery, how all that can play out. So I'm really curious to see how that's going to improve accuracy and efficiency in those capabilities.
Yeah, I think I mean, I agree with a lot of that, but my concern is that right now the use of AI is being used purely from a capitalistic perspective, right? Sure, like going into business is about having lower bottom dollar, like having a higher profit margin, but for me at least, I care a lot about the humans, like my
Mhm.
actual clients, my
Yeah.
actual team. My problem with how this is being leveraged right now are the mass layoffs, the mass exodus, the assumption of using a platform for therapy for mental health, even like with non-HIPAA compliant. I went to see one of my doctors, I think it was my OBGYN, and they were like giving a release form for using AI for my medical stuff. And I said, is it on a safe platform that's contained, that's your own platform? Like, what protections do I have for HIPAA compliance? They couldn't answer that freaking question. So I said, no, you cannot use that. I'm not going to sign this.
Yeah.
And so when I'm seeing things like this left and right for the people that can't even advocate for themselves against this protection because they don't even understand it, that's my problem is we're trying to utilize a technology that's been around for a long time that most people have no idea how it actually works. They don't know what they're signing up for. And then you have these big companies doing mass exodus layoffs that's impacting people in ripple effects so we can't even contemplate just after we started coming back from COVID and being isolated. This is like a public policy paper. I just can't wait for a student to write in the next 5 to 10 years on what this shit show is going to create for
I'm not so
humanity.
sure a student hasn't already written it, but not in this country.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that comes to mind as we're all talking about different ethical impacts is the fact that since the internet is global and AI is global, how do we really regulate it? Because then now we have to have our governments communicate effectively with each other, not just the friendly governments, but all governments, right? Because we know that China's doing different things with AI. We know that we're doing different things with AI. And it's at what point do we all figure out? I say we all, at what point do our governments figure out that they have to work together to effectively regulate something? Otherwise, it'll be uncontrollable.
Well, you're talking to a political science expert. Like I study political science, y'all. So my thing is the next war is going to be on information. You know,
Right.
we saw some outages that were significant that had impacts for people accessing their bank accounts to the simplest things to everything just breaking. So there's also cybersecurity dangers and
Yes.
information gap dangers and the fact that we're just openly sharing this content on a platform that is global and is not regulated, is not protected.
Mhm.
So anyways, like that's my
Yeah, it
perspective.
takes social engineering to a whole new level because you're actually giving whatever large language model your information. And
Yep.
if somebody is savvy enough, they can actually ask the large language model information about you and it will tell them because it's learning on everything that you put in there.
Yep.
So it's quite an interesting, we're advancing faster than we can keep up. It's going to be a definitely an interesting ride. I mean, the
And
one
is it
cool
good
thing
for
is,
you? You
what's
know?
that?
Is it even good for us? Like, I don't
Well,
know about you guys. Do you feel all the like the anxiety out there? It's like there's so much noise and
yeah.
humanity wasn't here. We were like supposed to be in circles around a freaking campfire in a cave. We're not meant to like have this much stuff thrown at us constantly. People are so burnt out by just information and content. And now you layer these things and these bots and these whatever that can give you more. And it's like, oh, gosh, we have more crap content out there.
I think it's good with regards to if we use it right, we can make some really good advancements.
Yeah.
The
Exactly.
question is, do we let greed interfere with the advancements? Right?
100%.
So, I mean,
Touche.
It's already happening.
yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
it is already
Yeah.
happening.
Yep.
Um, does it become more common that people open source things before it gets grabbed up by the pharmaceutical company or something else? I think of DeepMind. I just read or watched a documentary on YouTube about the founder of DeepMind and what Google's doing. And they created an AI that actually um, won the prediction about folding proteins, which was the hardest thing. Nobody could ever do it. Um, and once they won it within, I think, a 98% accuracy, instead of monetizing it, they decided to just go ahead and fold all the proteins out there. 200 and some thousand proteins. They folded it and put the database out there for all biologists to use, all the scientists to use freely. And I think that's the mindset that we need from people that are in a position like DeepMind who have the deep pockets, um, who are able to manipulate politically to some degree and say, hey, no, we need to do this because this this deserves to be on a free platform, instead of being monetized. One of these days, hopefully, we'll do it with drugs so the pharmaceuticals don't rape the US and let all the other companies have it for a quarter of the cost. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Mighty
Jamie, you
world.
came off a mute like 4 times. You were gonna say something.
Yeah, I was just gonna let you know, Philip, that we couldn't see you when you were talking. Um,
Oh,
and I didn't want
I'll
to
put
interrupt
myself
your
on
role.
spotlight. I'll have to put myself on spotlight. That's kind of one of the things I'm used to having two screens, so I can usually see what's being shown, but right now I just can see what's being
Hey,
shared.
you're writing Ghost CEO. Maybe that was intentional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can hear me, but you can't see me. Um,
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know too that I am not Jamie. I'm an AI right now, so
Well, it's nice to see you, Neo from the Matrix. That's delightful. Keanu Reeves appreciates you standing in
yeah.
today. Yeah.
that's great.
That's funny.
So now that we obviously hit the touchy topic, you know, eh, one of the things I'll put myself on. I don't even think I can spotlight myself. Can I? Oh yeah, there we go. Hey, um, one of the things I think we touched on there, and it usually comes at the end of a lot of these conversations, is the only way that we can effectively do what's right, what allows us to advance in the correct way is communicate. Because a lot of people are going on in their own directions. They're not understanding how to communicate with the right subject matter experts, how to communicate with the right politicians, how to explain things effectively on how AI should work, how it's going to work in the future. There's scary things out there like a paper called 2027 that says by 2027, if we go down a certain path, computers are going to take over the world and it's going to be like a Skynet thing. Um, and there are people out there who don't know any better. And if they go on the wrong track on social media, the algorithm is going to feed them this stuff, right? So it really takes people who are in the know and have the technical wherewithal to communicate to everybody on whatever channel they can, even in real life, about, what's happening in AI and how to properly use it, how to not use it for your therapist, because there are certain things that the therapist can do, like think when they're trying to help you with situations. Therapists don't hallucinate. Most of them don't hallucinate. And they also don't repeat your information to everybody who asks about it, right? So, and yeah, Holly, that was one of the big topics, big issues that I have with people using ChatGPT and Claude as sounding boards for their personal problems, their mental problems, their relationship problems, all that, because their health problems. Like, don't ask it for medical advice. there's a reason a doctor spends 10 years in school, right? So there's a reason they have to be trained. These AIs are not trained on that. They are book smart, not street smart, right? So
Yeah, this might be a little meta or too deep, but there's also like I feel that the way people are starting to approach and use AI is removing their ability to take actual personal responsibility, right? So, you even with doctors, you guys, I have a 10 level spinal fusion. I've had lots of injuries, and I'll go see a doctor, and they're like, "You have this," and I'm like, "Well, I've actually read about this, and no, I'm not going to have that random surgical procedure." And I'm intelligent enough to research and then advocate for myself. The problem is if you're using AI for all these things, one, you're not actually talking to smart humans, so you're actually isolating, even though you think you're not isolating. But then two, you're not taking personal responsibility. You're gonna sit there and blame AI. And then I think was it Jamie that said they're starting to talk about the news from AI. I cannot stand it, especially when we're coming up on voting day and people are quoting they're quoting Facebook, you guys. They're quoting something they read on Facebook as their political wherewithal for why they're voting for a political view. And it's like, my goodness. So if we're gonna leverage AI as like the new Google or the new whatever, and your WebMD, and not go to smart people, and you're not going to take responsibility for finding your own smart actual resources that you can trust, and that removes personal responsibility, we have a bigger problem and we're going to go backwards.
yeah, I agree. And I will say something though for the research portion of it. If you're going to use AI for research, use ChatGPT started to do this, but use Perplexity or something that's going to give you the sources where it got the information from, and then go read those sources to make sure that those sources are not Facebook and Reddit, right? Make sure those sources are viable sources, published papers from respectable medical journals or whatever, right? Use use it as, oh, my student just gave me a paper on my medical ailment. I'm going to go check all the cited sources to make sure that it's accurate, right? Because you don't know, and it could be hallucinating. It could be quoting you a medical procedure or solution from a movie, you know?
Exactly.
So it's just different ways that it's learning, and these were taught by humans how to learn. And humans aren't perfect, so they don't learn perfect. These computers don't learn perfect either, right? So you have to make sure that you're not just getting the latest reference from, a movie or a sitcom or a Law and Order episode or something like that, right? So, and I think so as we come into the last little bit of this, we've touched on some of the challenges and the processes that we're trying to solve for, but how would you really explain the challenge of the pain point to a client who wants to use AI and maybe they're not as technical and technically inclined or in the know? They just heard it from a friend of a friend that said, "Oh, you should use this AI assistant," or something like that. How do you think we can like maybe solve for these challenges or kind of turn them back onto like the right road or the right
Yeah.
path?
So I think first of all, it's knowing what AI actually is, right? It's really meant to have you prompt it and be very specific in your prompting to give you ideas. I think it was Ian that said treat them as ideas, or Jane, I don't remember who said that. And when we treat it that way and we learn how to prompt it and we know appropriate things to prompt it for, that can be very useful. It's a great brainstorming tool. I think Ian was saying he uses it for getting his thoughts out and brainstorming solutions. But then also making it your own, right? Guys, this isn't meant to make us freaking more lazy than we already are. Humans are so freaking lazy. Like, stop being lazy. It's meant to help help you brainstorm, help you come up with more ideas faster, and then make it your own and take different bits and pieces from that. But ultimately, it's only as good as your prompt. It's not magic. People think it is. It's not magical, you guys. I hate to tell you, it's not that silver bullet you've been seeking your whole life. But when you do know how to prompt it appropriately, it can be very powerful. It can be great for research. It can be great for ideating. It can be great for giving you resources that you want to check out for a specific topic. But where it's not appropriate is, dating advice or personal issues or therapy or things like that. And you also want to be very careful if you're publishing something. We don't want to have you like copyrighted and having legal issues later. So be careful what content you're using after working with AI if you're publishing a book or trademarking something, for example.
Yeah, and there are tools you can run if you are using some AI. There are tools you can run it through to make sure that there's no plagiarism, copyright infringement, trademark infringement, stuff like that. Because you definitely want to make sure to use those tools if you're going to put something out there publicly underneath your name that may have some of that in it, right? Um, and it's unfortunately it's a lot of gray areas right now because they haven't quite figured out a lot of it, but most of these tools will make you fairly safe. And if you're really going to go all in, probably, and I'm sure Ian would probably tell you this, use a lawyer. Make sure you double, you know, double check everything and have that legal background backing to make sure you're safe from any future lawsuits or anything like that. I noticed, Ian, you had come off of mute there for a while. Was there anything you wanted to add?
Uh, no, not specifically. I mean, I'll throw my 2 cents in, but like we said before, there's no free lunch. So it's if you're going to be having somebody come to you asking for how to use this great thing they heard about, look, it's a tool. Like with a hammer, you could build your house or you could break your hand.
Yep.
It's up to you. So your ability to still critically think, which I think is no pun intended, a critical skill to have, to really read between the lines. The pattern recognition, going back to one of Holly's points a few minutes ago about um, not being able, people not being able to recognize the fallacies in it. But, like humans being able to see tigers in the wild, tigers develop stripes to hide, our ability to recognize patterns is one of the many things that gets us here. Coming from a competitive martial arts background, recognizing patterns is fundamental. You can, in theory, basically tell the future based on a certain set of patterns of what someone's next few motions are going to be. And then you can be that much ahead of the curve to execute, in advance. So being able to recognize those patterns and learning those new patterns of what AI is putting out there, things to watch out for, things that should kind of raise an eyebrow or an ear. I think it's gonna be one of those things where, we need to be on this lifetime path of learning, and you can't just set it and forget it. You can't take a back seat. If you want to survive, you need to keep educating yourself. It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes accountability. So it's just you gotta stay with it. Those old times of where you could just find one job and ride off into the sunset are few and far between, you know, um, and that's just the world we're living in now. So I think it's a great thing to utilize as a tool, but you got to understand, the dangers that come with it, and be brutally honest with yourself.
Yeah, I agree. You sparked something, a thought that I had. I was talking with somebody the other day, and I think a lot of the fear that we have around AI and some of the positive ideas that we have around AI has come from our own experience in the entertainment industry. Think about all of the science fiction that we watched and how it
Mhm.
portrays AI, um, whether that's positive or negative. And one of the things that I thought of that hopefully I'm not the only one that's thought of this is if the film industry and entertainment industry gets on board with actually helping educate people, we can do it in a way where they don't even realize they're being educated positively towards how to use AI properly and not negatively.
Yeah.
You know, to Holly's thing, if there was a movie out there that showed the negative effects of using it as your therapist, perhaps enough people would see it and word would get around. They're like, hey, no, you don't want to do that. Remember what happened in whatever movie, right? And we know that movies and entertainment can be done in a way where it kind of sticks in a human's mind, and the your intelligence level kind of goes out the door, right? A lot of us watch movies and shows to entertain ourselves and not have to think about other things, right? But we still ingest the information and the kind of subtext of everything that's happening in that movie.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
think
look
that
at
would be really cool.
like spy movies, Mission Impossible or whatever. Like you through, rose-colored glasses, you see the techniques and the things that the spies do to help gain favoritism or get
Yeah.
behind enemy lines or things like that, where it's not you in there, but you're subconsciously taking notes. Yes, it's still a movie, but there's bits and pieces of truth woven in there that you
Yeah.
can start to explore for sure. I'm looking forward to the really bad training videos or, school education videos on how not to use AI or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I hope the film industry gets involved because those educational documentaries that, I feared watching, or we slept through in class in school or whatever. I don't think those work as well as something that's more entertaining but still has that educational subtext.
The scary thing is, you guys, there are actual real therapists that are training their these like chat bots as agents to actually expand their therapy practice, which is
I don't
freaking
even want to know how you
terrifying.
know that. I don't even
Yeah, it's terrifying. So
I
that this
don't
is
even
my point
want.
is, yeah, like all the people I meet and we'll have these I'm just like, wow. It was just like a random group call and I had two therapists and they were on both different opposite sides of the AI spectrum and I was like, wow, this is a very interesting conversation and terrifying. So yeah, I agree. Like Winning the Story Wars is one of my favorite marketing books. And so, of course, we learn through story, and filmmaking is one of the best ways to reach the most people when it's done well.
Right.
Um, it'd be cool to like have Schitt's Creek come back and teach us about AI. Just like
Like an
randomly
AI
putting that
version.
out there. And how we're like shitty humans and like we come along and like we learn the hard way. Like, here's where you don't use it, here's where you do.
That's funny. We'll all break into song all the time.
There you go.
Um, I think it's important to educate and important to help people understand. So that's one of the things that somebody's got to figure out. Right now, I know we see a lot of it. We're in the industry where we see a lot of the marketers and we don't see a lot of the you know people who aren't in our sphere. We don't know what they're actually talking about. Some of you might, but a lot of this stuff I find quite interesting when I figure out how they're using AI, and there really needs to be more education. So, and the government's not going to do it because they can't even figure out how to manage it or regulate it or who to
Or
talk
set a
to about it.
budget.
Yeah, or set a budget or who to talk to about it, right? So, um, and I don't think companies like Oracle, Google, Meta, and those companies are going to go through the process of educating people because right now they're making too much money off of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's like having superpowers, right? Like you could use your superpowers for good or you could use it for evil.
Exactly.
How you gonna swing it?
I just hope this isn't the fall of capitalism, of which if you look at historically does happen. So not to be dark, but just like political science major here
Well,
and people I talk
there are
to.
the predictions
Yeah.
out there about that. So,
Yeah, and it just feels like when you have this many monopolies in the market and these behemoths that aren't, in my opinion, I won't name names, doing this for good, but they're doing it for capital, then this is where capitalism usually implodes. This is where you have a lot of scary things that happen. So I really hope that I'm wrong in that prediction. So I would love to be wrong on that.
Yeah, hopefully we self-correct and we continue to at least slowly pace to the right direction so that we can ingest all the things that are happening. Because it's not going to slow down. It's only going to get faster because we're too curious to slow down. We've got to keep figuring out, oh, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? We always want to know what's around the corner. So um, whether that's good or bad, we'll find out. The other thing that we didn't touch on a lot on this, but there is a bad actor side of AI that we all have to be cognizant of, um, because hackers are doing the same thing that we are, trying to figure out how to most effectively use AI. Um, and I think we did see some of it with Cloudflare and with AWS. I think they used AI
Mm-hmm.
and AI bots to figure out where the weaknesses were, um, which is why I said earlier, if you're doing anything with software and using AI to create it, please have somebody who knows what they're doing look at it before you publish it and sell it because, it can easily break, it can easily be hacked. And if you have people's sensitive information, or if you get even a handful of people that log into your application and like many people out there use the same password for your application that they use for every other application, including their bank account and everything else, there could be bad ramifications. So I think, you know, I've enjoyed the past hour and a half. As usual, I come into these things wondering if it's going to last an hour and a half, and then I'm always amazed that, oh, it's 4:20 and we're there. Um, I think this has been a great conversation. I love the conversations with the different viewpoints. Holly, Jamie, Ian, thank you for coming on to Crush the Chaos and participating. Even though I think it was just us the whole time having a wonderful conversation, I'm sure there'll be many people who watch this afterwards. December is one of those odd months, as we said, where people seem to be really busy before they take the holiday vacations. If anyone wants to connect with anyone else on here, I do have up on the screen now the LinkedIn links for Holly, for Ian, and for Jamie. I'm sure they would be more than happy to have a conversation if it's something that interests them. You can connect with them on LinkedIn. And until next month, thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you,
Thanks for having us.
Philip.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Be good.